It's August 1st, everyone, and first rhymes with worst. So let's discuss the worst characters in every NetherRealm game. We're talking the bottom of bottom tiers, the worst of the worst. And after talking with every content creator on screen, I think it's finally time to get started. So first up, we're talking about Jade, and that breaks my heart because I love Jade in every Mortal Kombat game, even MK9, but in this game, many people wouldn't argue that she was the worst character. Whenever people talk about MK9, you'll hear them say that every character was busted in one way or another, and that is true for most of the roster, but just not Jade. For comparison, every other bottom tier character did still have something busted, so Noob Saibot had some unblockable setups, and so did Quan Chi, and even Shiva had this godlike overhead that led to big damage, but poor Jade just didn't have anything. So already that's strike one. Jade does not have anything broken going for her, and then for strike number two, I'd say it's no mix-ups. So Jade does not have any mids in her string whatsoever. She does have some lows, but that just means you can block low all day against Jade and you'll never get launched for a free combo. She has no mix-ups. The only overhead she has is this special move, and boy is it really slow. Once you train yourself to watch out for this move, you're never getting launched for a combo. And this basically meant that Jade could only combo you off of whiff punishes, and thankfully she had this move. You probably recognize this move from MK11, and here it's back 1 instead of back 2, but unfortunately this move is pretty much essential because it's her only way of comboing into this overhead. Literally nothing else combos into this move unless you want to spend a meter, so you could do this and spin bar, but it's not really worth it. As you can see, the amplified version doesn't even hurt that much more. It's just a bit faster, but it's still not hurting anymore. It's still 8% actually. Look at that, it's the exact same damage, but it's just a bit faster. So you're spending bar to make her mix up just a bit harder to react to, and that's it. And then once she landed this move, she actually got some pretty cool combos going. I'm not gonna lie, that combo is still pretty fun to this very day, and 36%, that's not too bad. It's not great, but for no meter, it's okay, but if you wanted damage, you could play pretty much anyone else and get more for not spending any bar. And then for strike number 3, Jade lost really hard to keep away, which is a shame because I think she was intended to be the counter keep away character, but things just didn't work out. So in this game, she can go green instead of purple, but look at that, look how fast it's over. It's over instantly. Now the one benefit of this move that MK11 does not have is no animation. So she can attack pretty much the frame after she activates it, so that's pretty cool. In theory, she can go green and then just fly through stuff. That was the idea, but it recovers so quick that your timing had to be precise if you wanted to avoid projectiles. And then, just like MK11, there are plenty of projectiles that would seem like projectiles to the human mind, but this game does not treat them as projectiles. It treats them as physical attacks. So Kenshi, for example, can still hit you from full screen, but you can't use green to avoid it. And this gave Jade some really bad matchups because some characters could still play keep away and she didn't have any way to avoid them. However, what is interesting about this move is that if you spin the bar, she goes purple and she becomes immune to everything. Like literally everything for a brief period of time. So maybe go in and sneak in a throw or something. God knows you got no overheads to scare him with, so maybe throw him every now and then. But she is immune to everything for a very brief moment, and once again, recovers almost instantly. The problem is the block animation, so you can kind of like have a bit of recovery to release block. But once again, she can attack pretty quickly, so for a brief moment, she is completely invincible, but it cost a bar and it's gone almost instantly. So when you combine all of these elements, Jade just did not do good from far away. I loved her shadow kick, it was fun, and she had a full screen version if you spent the bar, and her super, which I can't show due to YouTube, does fly full screen and go right through projectiles. So if you wanted to spend all bars, then yes, you could actually go through a lot of keep away, but otherwise all you had was this and it was gone almost immediately. So as you can see, Jade just comes off as not finished in this game. It feels like they had a lot of cool ideas like comboing with this move, but the problem is, as you just saw, it didn't even combo. Sometimes it doesn't combo on the way back, and only certain moves actually have enough hit stun to even combo into it, so that worked. But if I do her fastest move, like this, and go, oh, I want to combo into it, I can't. Just doesn't work. Moves like this, doesn't work. So only certain moves can even combo into it because they have the hit stun, but otherwise you're just not getting this. And sadly, you can't even combo into her back 1. If you could, that would have made her immediately a bit better, but look at that, it didn't even combo. It's supposed to combo there. So this move is just hit or miss. You never know when it's actually going to work, and that's a shame. Maybe this one works, let's see for fun. Nope, still doesn't work. If you could combo into her back 1, she'd be immediately a lot better, but her combos are super bland and basic. She only has a couple of ways to actually hurt you for big damage, and also she has no mix-ups whatsoever, and she loses super hard to keep away. So poor Jade just didn't have anything going for her in this game. So when you put all of these things together, the only reason you would ever play Jade is if you liked her as a character, because competitively, she had nothing going for her. Every other character could do something better than she could, and the one thing she did have wasn't that great. And next, Next up, let's talk about Joker. So for starters, his movement speed. Just look at this. He's really slow. Now he has ways to increase this, but even when he does, he's still not very good in the movement department. His backdash is also quite terrible. His forward dash is okay, but even other characters have better forward dashes than him, so his movement's not that good. And honestly, his attack speed is also pretty slow as well. His fastest combo starter is 8 frames, so he can't even do 6. He has a 6 frame down 1, and this can still special cancel, but not into his combo starter. So he cannot down 1 into a full combo. He has to do like standing 1-1 and then get his combo started that way. So unless the opponent did something -9 or more, Joker was not getting a full combo punish. Now with that said, one nice thing Joker did have going for him was damage. If he touched you, he could hurt pretty bad. Now that was not optimal, but look at that, 44% for just 1 bar. So Joker did have damage. The issue was he was very slow, so punishing you was not an option most of the time. And then on top of that, Joker didn't have any real mix-ups either. He had this low combo starter, but outside of that, pretty much everything was overheads. So that's an overhead. Doesn't look like one, but it's an overhead. This right here is an overhead. He has an overhead special move, so tons and tons of overheads. But when it came to lows, he pretty much relied on his special moves. So he had this right here. And at a high level, at an offline tournament, you could react to this thing, but online in a bad connection, it could be somewhat sneaky, but his special moves were the only mix-ups he really had. However, here is where Joker actually became nasty, his chattering teeth. So these had a bunch of different distances, and they hit low to launch the opponent for a full combo. So what this meant was you would get a combo going, end with chattering teeth, and then do his forward 3, and the opponent had to guess, because you can hold down the forward 3 to delay it a little bit. So if you don't delay it, the overhead comes first. But if you do delay it, the overhead will come after the low, and it can be very, very tough to block in the hands of a good player. I've never personally practiced the timing, but even now, I'm already getting some pretty hard to block situations, so good luck blocking that even offline. And that was Joker's entire game plan. He would touch you, he would launch you, very easy combo follow-up honestly. Go for the chattering teeth and then the overhead, and you have to try and block that. If you don't, he starts the whole thing over again. Now, of course, the issue is tons of characters have invincible wake-ups in this game, and a lot of these wake-ups leave their character airborne, which means the chattering teeth won't hit. So against characters like that, Joker had to do a meter burn forward 3 just to get the armor and make sure you couldn't escape with an invincible move. But now it's time for perhaps the most tragic thing about Joker, his character power. Now, character powers are a very big deal in Injustice games. If you have a lackluster character power, your character might just be trash. So Joker does not have a good character power. It is a parry, he has a regular one, and he has a low hitting one. So if you do a low attack, he has to do this. For everything else, he can do this, and they all lose to jump ins. Honestly, the only thing good about this parry is the damage. It's not bad. So 4 + 7, we have 11% damage right there. That's not terrible. And you might be wondering, what does he get down there in the bottom left-hand corner? The answer is kind of sad. He just gets movement speed. And not even on his dash, it seems like. It's just his walk back and his walk forward is better. So remember earlier I said they were terrible? Well, now they're a bit better, but the startup is still really slow. So moving in is kind of difficult. Yeah, he reaches max speed and goes pretty fast, but he doesn't start off fast, so it's still not that great of an improvement. And I almost forgot to mention he does get a jump buff as well, so his jump becomes really fast and annoying when he's buffed. So check this out. I'm gonna get to level 3 just to show it. So look how fast I jump. Pretty fast, right? And what this meant was he had an almost instant overhead. So that's kind of crazy, but once again, Joker's problem was never his overheads, it was a lack of lows. So this really fast overhead doesn't change too much, but it does make him ridiculously annoying with the jumps. There's honestly not too much else to say about Joker. I want to go on the record that certain players did do well with this character, like Sonic Fox, so I stand by the statement that no character in this game is really bad, it's just that Joker is pretty lackluster and below average. However, in the hands of a good player, he had some really good mix-ups on knockdown, and his damage was above average, so he had that going for him. And then for Mortal Kombat X, I've decided to go with Drunken Master Bo' Rai Cho, and this was actually the toughest decision I had to make because the variations in this game vary drastically, which is why I made sure to ask a bunch of different content creators, and both Super and I agree that Drunken Master is likely the worst. Some players would argue that it's Unbreakable Sub-Zero, but I think that Sub-Zero's base toolkit is good enough to make that variation be okay, whereas this variation actively works against the player, which is a real shame because I love drunken boxing. As a kid, I was actually obsessed with the Jackie Chan films and I thought I could actually learn this martial art, and then lo and behold, it's mostly for show, but I still love it in movies and in video games. I love when it's done right, it's so much fun to watch. But once again, this variation does work against you, so let's talk about it. Bo' Rai Cho has the option to drink after a lot of special moves and attack strings. So right here, he has a low, and he can drink right after. And now this low gets a new animation. does more damage too. And once again, he can still drink afterwards as well. And you can drink up to 3 times and then keep drinking if you want to, but level 3 is the max level you can get to, and that opens up some new moves as well. So for example, he has this move right here that's only available when drunk, only hits twice. But if you're level 2, it hits 3 times, and you can always cancel it. And then at level 3, you get even more hits for even more damage. And at level 3, his vomit also becomes a lot better. It changes completely, has a different trajectory, does more damage, all that crazy stuff. The meter burn does a ton of damage, so drinking does have its benefits, but look at that. I was forced to puke right there. And that's because every time you take a drink, the countdown starts. You have 10 seconds before you have to drink again, and if you don't, Bo' Rai Cho will just stop whatever he's doing and puke. It doesn't matter if you're mid-combo, it doesn't matter what you're doing, he will stop and puke, which means a full combo for the opponent if they're waiting for it. And honestly, even if the opponent doesn't combo you, it still means that you gave up all of your offense or whatever momentum you had going, so that just kind of sucks. For me personally, the worst case scenario is it happening during combos, because Bo' Rai Cho actually had some pretty creative and fun combo routes, but in the middle of whatever you're doing, he would just puke and not only end your combo, but get you punished. And while the game does do a good job giving you a bunch of different chances to drink up, it just kind of sucks how there's no visual indicator of when it's about to run out. You have to keep the timer going in your head, and when it does finally run out, you puke and get hit for a full combo, or just give up your offense. And honestly, even when you drink, you're also giving up frame advantage on hit as well. So while you have a bunch of options to drink, you still are giving up offense to an extent. And that's not to mention all the crazy stuff you gain access to at different levels. Like, try to remember this stuff. It's kind of like a homework assignment. It's like studying before a test. There's so much to actually learn in just this variation alone, so it's honestly too much hassle for most players. And then for the final nail in the coffin, there's just not enough incentive to really use the variation as a whole. The moves you get from being drunk aren't that substantial, especially when you consider how good the other 2 variations Bo' Rai Cho has. He's not a bad character in this game. I think he's completely fine, but the effort it takes to constantly drink and constantly avoid the cooldown and all that crazy stuff, it all starts to pile up and make this variation not worth the effort in my opinion. And then we have to talk about Swamp Thing. I was going all over the internet and once again asking a bunch of creators who was the worst character in Injustice 2, and a lot of them seem to agree that it's Swamp Thing. And I think I do agree, because even though Swamp Thing's not a terrible character, in Injustice 2 there's a lot of keep away and a lot of zoning, and he just doesn't have very many tools to deal with it. And as I glanced over the roster, his character was the only one that stood out to me as not having anything special about him in terms of gameplay. Now thankfully Swamp Thing does have a lot going for him in the style department. Lots of fun attack strings, his animations are a lot of fun as well. The guy can summon trees at random, not to mention one of the best crouch animations and also the best teabag animation in the entire game. So as far as style goes, he has a lot of things happening for him. However, unfortunately, it's time to talk about his weaknesses. So first up, the movement. Swamp Thing, not very fast. Just like Joker, not very good movement, and that's a really big deal in Injustice 2 where the keep away was quite tremendous. And unfortunately, Swamp Thing doesn't really have any projectiles either. He has this log, but it's kind of slow on startup. You can see it coming a mile away, and it hits low, so you can just block it or you can jump it, any number of things. He has this awesome command grab, which is really cool and has different distances. It's a bit slow on startup, but it's unblockable, but unfortunately you can avoid it by ducking, so holding down will beat both the low projectile and also the command grab. So if you run away from Swamp Thing, the poor guy doesn't have too many options. He has an air dash, but it's only available as an unlockable ability, so you can't use it in tournaments or any other competitive mode, and that really sucks because on top of great mobility, the move just looks awesome as well, but sadly he does not have it in any competitive modes. And then when Swamp Thing does close the gap, he's still on the slow side. His fastest standing attack is 8 frames, so for comparison, Deadshot has a 6 frame standing one despite being a zoner, but let's be real, Deadshot has everything in this game, but just keep in mind he's also faster than Swamp Thing. And Swamp Thing's down 1 is also on the slow side at 7 frames, and it can't special cancel into anything that starts combos. If you ask me, it seems like Swamp Thing is meant to dominate from around jumping distance instead, right around here. He has a bunch of awesome hit confirms, he has some really fun ways to start off combos with this, and a lot of these moves do hit mid, so you can't even duck them, so he seems to be really strong from around jumping distance, and he also has a command grab up close, and this move's awesome because he can get health back and everything else. It's a very creative move. However, at a higher level of play, he is a bit on the slow side and also doesn't have any real mix-ups. He has this overhead, but it's really, really slow, and his 4-3 is also very, very slow, so pretty much no mix-ups. The guy relied on whiff punishes for the most part to get his combos started. And then last but not least, his character power is also on the weak side, so this pretty much makes it to where the opponent can't dash or jump when they're inside of it, and they also take a little bit of damage over time, but not very much. And then to make things even stranger, if Swamp Thing jumps, the garden just stops growing. Thankfully, he can still forward dash and back dash, but once again, all this really does is do damage to the opponent over time and make it to where it's a bit tougher for them to run away or jump, dash, all that stuff, but that's about it. Honestly, if this move just gave Swamp Thing health over time, I think it would go a long way to making him a much better character, because not only is he dealing damage and reducing your mobility, but he's also gaining health at the same time. However, unfortunately, this trait does not do that. It's actually quite simple and not very useful in most matchups. And to NetherRealm's credit, they did seem to realize how bad his mobility was and how much he would suffer to keep away, so they gave him more health than most characters in the game, but I don't think it offsets how crazy the keep away and zoning was in this game. At the end of the day, Swamp Thing is a solid character at around jumping distance, but he just suffers very hard in a lot of matchups due to his slow speed, slow attacks, and just being slow in general. And then finally we have to talk about Scarlet, and that breaks my heart because I love Scarlet. I loved her ever since MK9, and I was so happy when she got revealed. But even so, I've made several videos on the bottom 3 characters in this game, and Scarlet has always been among that list. And since Shao Kahn and Raiden have been buffed around her, she is now arguably the worst character in the game. Now thankfully at the casual level, you might not even know that she's bad because her keep away is still alright, and a lot of players, especially online, don't know how to deal with keep away. So in the hands of a skilled player in Kombat League, you can definitely make Scarlet work. I'm pretty sure recently I got an 8-game win streak with her just messing around, and I was out of practice, so Scarlet can definitely make things work. Scarlet's main issues happened at a higher level, so for starters, she doesn't have many combo routes. She only really has this to get really good combos started from mid-screen. And then in the corner she has this, but you can just block low and avoid pretty much all of these, and this string is extremely unsafe on block and it starts off high, so it's really not a good tool in the neutral. It's almost only for punishing. And as a result, Scarlet's damage does tend to be on the low side, at least in a game like MK11. A lot of the time she is just tickling your health bar, even stuff like this. She's not getting very much damage unless she starts off with this or this, and both of these are almost never going to happen at a high level. And then for strike 2, Scarlet is a bit on the slow side. One of her best moves right here is 13 frames. If that was 12 or 11 or even 10, it would be much better, but right now it's 13, so she's a bit slow. This move is also 13, this move is 19, so Scarlet is just a bit on the slow side when it comes to any of her mids. And even this low attack is also 13, this high punish is 13 frames, so overall Scarlet is a bit slow. But then is the biggest sin of all, in strike 3, she just has so many gaps, and this is the main thing that players have been begging for NetherRealm to fix, but she just has so many gaps and they haven't changed it. And these gaps are arguably why Scarlet is so bottom tier at a high level, because anytime she commits to a string whatsoever, you can just flawless block the final hit and then punish her for a full combo every time. In all honesty, if NetherRealm just removed a few of these gaps, especially this one on her main go-to string, Scarlet would be a lot better almost instantly. But as it stands right now, she's very slow, her damage is on the low side, her mix-ups aren't great, and she has tons of gaps. And once you take all of that away, the only thing Scarlet has going for her is keep away. But if you want keep away, you're not going to pick Scarlet at a high level. You're going to pick Shang Tsung or any number of characters, which sadly means that Scarlet is not the best at anything in this game. She's just all around mediocre or lacking. So until Scarlet gets some much needed buffs, I would argue that she is the worst character in Mortal Kombat 11 at this point in time. However, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Which character do you think is the worst in any of these games? And then while you're down there, please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And finally, why not keep that combo going by suplexing that subscribe button? That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.